Talk about losing weight for the first part of today's programme. You get all these ridiculous adverts at this time of the year saying, is your body beach ready? Well, if it involves lying in a deck chair and eating ice cream, yes it is, thanks very much. I can breathe in like a good one, but I have been challenged to lose a little bit of weight by the end of July. Now, as I was saying, I've generally been pretty much all my adult life, apart from a blip, when I was way underweight, actually. I have been around the 12, 13 stone, 11, 12, 13 stone kind of area. I must admit, and I am aware of the fact that I do now wear extra large as opposed to large tops. My waist is all right, if only I could see it. I've been a 34 waist, I think, since I kind of left school, pretty much, really. And I'm still doing that, and I still have to use a belt, so, that's a bonus, and I haven't used up all the holes on the belt yet. But I did weigh myself yesterday, because I have got a bit of a tummy, okay? I've got a little bit of lockdown guts, and it has been suggested that perhaps it might be a good idea to lose a little bit of weight and set the date of the end of July, the 30th of July, okay? Weighed myself last night when I got home from work. Made sure that... Actually, no, I was dressed. I had taken my shoes off, though, and I made sure I did a wee first as well, just to be on the safe side. And I was between 14 and 15 stone, thereabouts, kind of. It was about 85 kilo or something like that. Obviously, we had this discussion the other week. I'm more an imperial man, so I had to go on my phone then and convert kilograms into stone, so I knew exactly where I was coming from. So that's a bit heavy for me. That's perhaps the heaviest that I've been. So I'm carrying a bit of furniture at the moment. So your tips, your advice would be very welcome today if you've been in that situation. How did you do it? Now, I'm a bit of a pain in the area because I don't eat salad. I don't like it. I like vegetables. I like fruit. I have had a very healthy breakfast this morning of an apple, a banana, and some yogurt, while my colleagues went out and feasted on fried goods from up the road. They've come waddling back into the operations room now. You've seen that photograph of the two great big fat blokes on the motorcycles, haven't you? Yeah, that's who I'm working with this morning. Anyway, so I would like your top tips, please. Have you lost weight? How did you do it? Did you pile it back on again straight away? Did you find it easy? Did you find it hard? What were your top tips for getting through it as well? Because the thing that's preying on my mind is that there's certain things in life that I like a lot, and I am quite fussy when it comes to food, and also, if I'm really honest, I'm quite lazy as well. So any ideas that you've got for me, I would gratefully receive. 0800 756 1111. Text is 81333. Start your message with the word Kent. And you can join in on WhatsApp as well, 08000 321 333. Let's bring in David now. This is the man that I need to talk to. David Breaker is from Gillingham. He became a weight loss coach after putting on weight during a gaming addiction. David, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Steve. Very well, thank you. And I'm sure many of the audience will actually really connect with what you've been sharing this morning. Thank you for being open about it, because it's important to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, I thought I'm not alone here, and particularly I think over the last 2-3 years, where perhaps in some ways we haven't been as active as we would be normally, maybe we were grazing at the fridge if we're working from home and things like that, and judging by the shortage of pasta, a lot of pasta happened over the last 2 or 3 years as well. David, first up, tell me your story. Tell me what happened to you.
So, very, very briefly, I mean, many people already know my story. I talk about it very openly. About 10 years ago now, I was a very different man. I was 32 stone, unemployed, stuck as a gaming addict in World of Warcraft 14 hours a day. And honestly, Steve, I really wasn't in a great place. But luckily, I had a wake-up call from a GP who was a family GP, and he basically said, Dave, if you don't do something about this and lose weight, you're going to be dead by the time you're 35.
Good grief. Right? That is a wake-up call, isn't it?
Yeah, and some people have said, oh, that's a bit harsh, he overstepped the boundary. But others said, good on that doctor, good on him, stepping that thing. And I won't lie, it was hard for me to want to get change, and I was in a really low place. But long story short, I did get the support, I lost the weight. I mean, I'm now, I did actually originally lose 20 stone in weight, but
wow.
I remember the conversation with my specialist asking me to actually put weight back on, which is a really weird place to be after you've worked so hard to lose it all. But now I'm really fortunate now that, having been through that journey, lost all that weight, kept it off, I'm really fortunate now to be helping people, whether it's one-to-one or I also facilitate for a local authority their healthy eating courses. And I'll give you a perfect example, Steve. I'll be out shopping and someone will come up to me and they go, "Oh, do you remember me, Dave? Do you remember?" I was like, "Oh, I think you look a bit different." I said, I attended your course last year and I've lost 3-4 stone. And
wow,
they're so happy and it means so much to me because they've done amazing. And it's good.
No, that's so good, and it's so positive as well. And your story in itself is positive straight away. How much do you weigh now, David?
So I'm about 14 stone roughly, but
Okay.
I have extra skin because and that weighs about 1.5 stone. So I'm about 6 foot tall, about 13 stone. So actually, according to BMI, I'm technically considered overweight, which, as we all know, with BMI, take it with a pinch of salt. It's a measure, but it's not a very good measure. So that's an important thing I want your listeners to, if you're being told your BMI, please don't take it to heart. It is a measure that's not really fully accurate of a person. I knew someone that had a very high BMI was considered morbidly obese, but he was at the gym every single day. He was heavily toned, ate very healthily. According to his BMI, not really good, but honestly, he wasn't overweight.
Right.
So,
So, David, how did you go about it? How did you start when you got that wake-up call from your doctor? And actually, I think we need those harsh calls sometimes. We need somebody independent of our lives to just step in and say, "Do you know what? You need to do something about this." And you know, that perhaps that shock tactic, you know, might not work for everybody, but I think it would work for me. Where did you start from, David? How did you get going with it?
I mean, the early journey was tough. I made so many mistakes. I tried Slimming World, I tried Weight Watchers, I tried different diets. I even tried a medication to help me lose weight, and it wasn't really working. Eventually got referred to a local service. I'm based in Medway. There's a healthy weight management service where I got one-to-one support, counselling, group therapy, and I was making good progress. And the main way that I lost the weight was gastric surgery. So I had a gastric bypass on the NHS. But I mean, I initially turned that down, didn't want it. But then I got on the waiting list for a year, and I lost 5 stone in that year because I changed all my food choices. I learned how to cook. Honestly, Steve, I never used to know how to cook. I've burnt salad, genuinely. Burnt salad before. That's a story and a half. I won't tell it. And I've done all the hard work, and that's why keeping all the weight off now. And honestly, it was tough. It was really tough because you do have, I did have to heavily restrict, and that's the challenging with this stuff. The really scary thing is people want to lose weight by dieting, but for most people, diets don't work. It just simply is the case because they are short-term fixes. They're about restriction, removing certain food groups, which nutritionally just doesn't work. And I mean, I've got qualifications in nutrition and weight management now, and I've made a point of learning about this stuff, but a lot of people struggle when it comes to nutrition, and there's mixed messages. That's a problem. One week we're told red wine is good for heart health. The next week, red wine is bad for heart health.
Yeah.
As a, how do we make informed decisions? And that's where I think it's looking at the bigger picture. And I think the thing is, weight loss is important, but actually what really matters here is that we fuel our bodies with good food. So a good example of a good breakfast that a lot of people don't think about is you need a good mix of carbohydrate with a little bit of fat or protein. And it needs to be a sizable breakfast that fills you up for the day. I've had clients who genuinely have skipped breakfast, have had a tiny breakfast, and they wonder why at 11 o'clock they're ravenous.
Yeah, they're starving again, yeah.
Yeah, because they haven't given themselves the fuel they need to last till lunchtime. That's the issue.
It's interesting you talk about breakfast because up until today, quite often I would nip next door, have a sausage roll, maybe a bar of chocolate, and a bottle of orange juice at about 9 o'clock or something like that, because I know that I'm in this studio for 4 hours and I can't stop for lunch. We can't have a lunch break doing this for a living, although some think that they can. But I've got to be here until 2 o'clock. By 2 o'clock comes, I'm going home. So then I've got a 6-year-old child who needs to eat tea, say about 4:30. So that worked quite well. So I don't have lunch, but I have a nice breakfast. Today I've tried for the first time. I'm having some yogurt and some fruit. Now, is that going to keep me going until I get home this afternoon? I'm not sure. Today we shall see, David.
Well, I mean, so nutritionally, likely not, to be honest with you. So there's always been a big push against carbohydrate, that people say carbs is bad, but actually it's not true. It's our main source of energy. And actually what would be better with you, with your yogurt and fruit, is maybe some oats, maybe some porridge, something carb-based to bulk it out. Because certainly if it's a complex carb, which is your healthier sort of whole grain, stuff like that, it will be a slow release energy. It's a glucose that releases in our body. So, for example, when you were having your chocolate bar and orange juice, they're simple carbohydrates. They're very quick releasing. So your body would have got a glucose spike and then a crash. So that may, and the thing is, even if you're not diabetic, you do get these spikes and crashes in glucose levels. A perfect example, the term hungry, angry.
Oh, yeah, don't worry, I'm familiar with that term. I know it a lot. As far as meals concerned, I'm not alone I'm not a fan. I don't eat salad. I hate salad. But vegetables, chicken, fish, they're all pretty good for you, aren't they?
Absolutely, right. So there is this total myth about losing weight that you need to you can't eat unhealthy foods, you can't do this, you can't have treats, you can't do all that, and you've only got to have salads. Now, you don't have to have salads all the time. Now, obviously, we want to increase our veg intake, preferably veg over fruit, because fruit is good for us, and there's some good nutrition in fruit, but there's a lot of sugar, a lot of fructose, which, again, it's a better sugar, but we don't want to, of your suggestion 5 a day, we don't want most of that to be fruit, okay? Vegetables are always a good option, and there are so many good options. I'll give a perfect example of a meal that I cooked the other night, was coronation chickpea. Really lovely, just chickpeas, curry powder in the oven, a little bit, tiny amount of oil, and then some rice and a bit of creme fraiche with some curry powder. Do you know what? Absolutely delicious. And it's about getting a balance. So you need to make sure you're getting a good balance of carb, protein, and fat. So because we need all of those nutrients, and that's, I think, what we struggle with, because the focus often is weight loss, and that is important, and it does make you, especially with people's self-confidence, body image, what with the sun coming out, people want to feel good. And people we do worry about what people think of us. And everyone does. And even when I hear people go, I don't care what people think of me.
They do really.
You do really care what people think of you. But it's about a large part of it, and often I find with the work I do with my clients, as much as I do support the nutrition and the education, a lot of it actually is getting them to understand their behaviours, their emotions, their habits, because when you look at eating, it's a huge subject. It is such a huge subject. There's emotions, there's behaviour, there's habits, there's learning from parents, social. Perfect example, Steve, right? Mm-hmm. Your best friend comes over tomorrow and they bake you your favourite cake.
Right, okay, go on.
What do you do? They've turned up with your favourite cake, they've home baked it for you. What do?
Well, to be polite, and also I love cake, you would eat some, wouldn't you?
Yes, but what if you're trying to be a bit healthier? What if you're trying to make better choices?
Isn't it? It's an interesting one. You would say, oh, well, I've just eaten, I'll have some later, and then perhaps I'll bring it into work for the gannets here.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is the point. Social interaction has huge interaction with food. Look at some of our big celebrations, Diwali, it's all about food, right? Huge Indian celebrations, all about food. And that's where I think people struggle. I get very annoyed when people say it's easy to lose weight, because it's not. Yes, we do need to reduce the amount of food we're eating. Obviously, there needs to be a calorie deficit generally for us to lose weight, but it's not that simple. It just isn't. Otherwise, we'd have a nation full of really slim people.
That's very true. That's very true. Final question, David, and actually it's quite a big one. I do like a glass of wine, and I like red wine, I don't want to say goodbye to it for a month. I think people would be surprised if they delve into it how many calories there are in alcoholic drinks, wouldn't they?
Absolutely. The thing around alcohol, and again, the thing with me, and it's just, I'm a big person about moderation, right? We need to live a life. I don't eat perfectly all the time. Often one of the suggestions is 80-20. But the thing with, as within, eat 80% of the time good things. The thing with alcohol is it's very calorie heavy. There's a lot of energy in it, and it is a macronutrient, a calorie source. But it's very nutrient deficient. There's very little nutrients in it. Okay, all the other micronutrients, all the good bits that we need. But the guidance is 14 units a week. A large glass of wine. And let's be honest, guys, come on. And when we pour wine at home, we ain't doing it to the measure, are we?
No, we're not. No.
It's a good old glug. But you're easily looking about 2 or 3 units per full glass of wine.
Yeah.
And I've had clients that have literally had like a bottle of wine a night. And that's easily, a bottle of wine, you're easily looking anywhere up to 600 calories. Right, and when you factor in, for someone to lose weight, you're looking between 1,500 and 2,000 calories. That's a third to a quarter of your intake for the day. And I'm not a huge pusher about calorie counting and all that sort of stuff, but we do need to be kind of mindful of it.
It's part of it, isn't it? It's part of the big picture, yeah.
Yeah, it is. But obviously, we have to be careful around behaviours and stressing over those things. But I think if people are struggling with, they enjoy their alcohol, don't stop enjoying it. You don't need to go cold turkey, but can you lower it down? Can you just stick to one glass, and then start, once you've done that for a couple of weeks, just to one glass a night? Can you move it down to a glass every other night? And I think the thing is, I'll give a perfect example. It's one of my clients. Every night she was having a half a chocolate bar, milk chocolate bar. She was type 2 diabetic, trying to manage her diabetes. And I asked her very bluntly, I said, is this now a habit or a treat? Oh, it's my treat. I have it every day. Is it a treat then?
Yeah, it's a habit, isn't it? I mean, we all like something perhaps at the end of the day, whether, it is a bar of chocolate or, I don't know, an apple or a glass of wine, but you're right. If you go for, I don't know, the second chocolate bar or the second, third, fourth glass of wine, then that's not going to, if you're trying to lose weight, that's not going to help you at all. If anything, it's pushing you in the other direction, isn't it?
Yeah, and again, I think one of the things that I've always found with a lot of people is they're not very clear about why they want to. And this is for you, Steve, in a sense. You said you want to lose by the end of July. You need to be very specific in your mind why it's important to you, what the specific outcome is, and why you want to do it. Because, to put it bluntly, that donkey don't move without the carrot. So what's your carrot? It's a bit of a blunt way to put it, but it's true. Because one of the common mistakes I've seen people, they talk about, I want to get motivated to lose weight. I'll get motivated first. I'm not motivated yet. Well, that's because you don't. Motivation isn't some mythical force that gives you the kick up the rear to move. You need action first, to be very clear about what your purpose is, why you want to go down this journey, and then start doing, and then start actually making changes. And I'll finish off with a very important quote from Einstein. Very, very important quote. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, but expecting a different result.
Yeah,
change it. Something will happen.
I've heard that quote, and we actually should hang it above the studio door, quite frankly. David, it's really good talking to you. Thank you so much for your time today, and congratulations on your journey, quite frankly. David Breaker there from Gillingham, who is a weight loss coach. Did anything that David say ring true there? How did you go about it if you felt that you needed to? What was your carrot? If we bring it back into what David was saying, what was the carrot that made you want to get on that journey to lose some weight? Did you keep it off as well? I'm really interested in hearing from you this morning. 0800 756 1111. Not for my own